What if the deadliest killer in your town was a teenage boy's never suspect? You all must have seen all my videos, whether I discuss about the case of serial killer men or about serial killer women. But today, I am going to discuss about two girls. Actually, both of them had killed their teachers and classmates in their school life. This case looks simple, but it is not that simple. This case is the most disturbing case of my journey. Let's not take much of your time. Let's start the video and start our discussions. Eric David Harris, April 9th, 1981, April 20th, 1999, and Dylan Bennett Klebold, September 11th, 1981, April 20th, 1999, were American high school seniors and mass murderers who perpetrated the Columbine High School massacre at Columbine High School on April 20th, 1999, in Columbine, Colorado. Harris and Klebold killed 13 students and one teacher and wounded 23 others. After killing most of their victims in the school's library, they died by suicide. At the time, it was the deadliest high school shooting in U.S. history. The ensuing media frenzy and moral panic led to Columbine becoming a byword for school shootings and becoming one of the most infamous mass shootings ever perpetrated in the United States. Eric David Harris was born on April 9, 1981, in Wichita, Kansas. Harris's parents were both born and raised in Colorado. His mother, Catherine Ann Poole, was a homemaker. His father, Wayne Harris, was working in the United States Air Force as a transport pilot. In 1983, the family moved to Dayton, Ohio, when Harris was 2 years old. 6 years later, the family relocated to Oscoda, Michigan. Michigan pastor William Stone lived across the street from the Harris family while they were located in Oscoda. Stone recalled them as great neighbors and often saw Wayne very engaged with his sons. 12. The Harris family then moved to Plattsburgh, New York, in 1991. During his time at Stafford Middle School, Harris played Little League Baseball, regularly went to birthday parties, and was part of the crowd. Kyle Ross, a former classmate of Harris, said he was just a typical kid. 13. The Harris family finally settled back in Littleton, Colorado the next year when Wayne retired from the military. 14. On a 1997 English class assignment, Harris wrote about how difficult the move was from New York to Colorado. It was the hardest moving from Plattsburgh. I have the most memories from there, Harris continued. When I left, his friends, I felt alone, lost, and even agitated that I had spent so much time with them and now I have to go because of something I can't stop. 15. Harris, in a basement tape, blamed his father for moving the family around, forcing Harris to start out at the bottom of the ladder. 16. Harris had a chest deformity known as pectus excavatum, in which the breastbone sinks into the chest. This made Harris reluctant to take his shirt off in gym class as other students ridiculed him. Harris had 2 cosmetic surgeries at age 12 and 13 to repair the deformity. The sunken chest was still mildly observable during his autopsy. The Harris family lived in rented accommodations for the first 3 years that they lived in the Littleton area. While Harris was in 7th grade, he met Klebold. In 1996, the Harris family purchased and settled at a house south of Columbine High School. Harris's older brother Kevin attended college at the University of Colorado. 19. Harris's father took a job with Flight Safety Services Corporation, and Harris's mother became a caterer. 22. Harris entered Columbine High School in 1995 as a freshman. Columbine had just gone through a major renovation and expansion. 23. From all accounts, he had many friends and was left forward and midfield on the Columbine soccer team for his freshman and sophomore year. Josh Swanson, one of his teammates, said that Harris was a solid soccer player who enjoyed the sport a lot. 24-25. During his freshman year, Harris met Tiffany Teifer. They had German class together. 26. Teifer later recounted that Harris quickly wooed her. Harris asked her to homecoming and she accepted. After the event, it appeared that Teifer was no longer interested in seeing Harris anymore, for reasons never disclosed. When Teifer refused to socialize with Harris again, Harris staged a fake suicide. sprawling on the ground with fake blood splashed all over him. When Tyfer saw him on the ground, she began to scream for help, at which point Harris and his friends began laughing, prompting Tyfer to storm off, shouting at Harris to get psychological help. Dylan Bennett Klebold was born on September 11, 1981 in Lakewood, Colorado, to Thomas and Sue Klebold. On the day after the shooting, Klebold's mother remembered that, shortly after Klebold's birth, she described what felt like a shadow cast over her, warning her that this child would bring her great sorrow. I think I still make of it what I did at that time. The deputy announced his presence as one of the boys prepared to move the stolen goods into the trunk of the car. Harris shortly after admitted to theft after the deputy asked about where the equipment came from. They were later charged with mischief, breaking and entering, trespassing, and theft. They both left good impressions on juvenile officers, who offered to expunge their criminal records if they agreed to attend a diversionary program, which included community service and psychiatric treatment. Harris was required to attend anger management classes where, again, he made a favorable impression. The boys' probation officer discharged them from the program a few months ahead of schedule for good behavior. Regarding Harris, it was remarked that he was a very bright individual who was likely to succeed in life. While Klebold was said to be intelligent, but needs to understand that hard work is part of fulfilling a dream. Several months later, on April 30th, Harris handed over the first version of a letter of apology he wrote to the owner of the van, which he completed the next month. In the letter, Harris expressed regret about his actions. However, in one of his journal entries dated April 12th, he wrote, "Isn't America supposed to be the land of the free? How come, if I'm free, I can't deprive some fucking dumb shit from his possessions? If he leaves them sitting in the front seat of his fucking van in plain sight in the middle of fucking nowhere on a fry fucking day night? Natural selection. Fucker should be shot." Now let us take a look at what the president said about these two boys.
I want to begin by saying that Hillary and I are profoundly shocked and saddened by the tragedy today in Littleton, where two students opened fire on their classmates before apparently turning their guns on themselves. I have spoken with Governor Bill Owens and County Commission Chair Patricia Holloway and expressed my profound concern for the people of Littleton. I have spoken to Deputy Attorney General Eric Holder, and who, along with Attorney General Reno, is closely monitoring the situation. I've asked the Attorney General and the Secretary of Education to stand ready to assist local law enforcement, the schools, the families, the entire community during this time of crisis and sorrow. A crisis response team is ready now to travel to Colorado, and I strongly believe that we should do whatever we can to get enough counselors to the families and the children as quickly as possible. I know the other communities that have been through this are also ready to do whatever they can to help. I think that Patricia Holloway would not mind if I said that amidst all the turmoil and grief that she and others are experiencing, she said to me just a moment ago that perhaps now America would wake up to the dimensions of this challenge if it could happen in a place like Littleton, and we could prevent anything like this from happening again. We pray that she is right. We don't know yet all the hows or whys of this tragedy. Perhaps we may never fully understand it. St. Paul reminds us that we all see things in this life through a glass darkly, that we only partly understand what is happening. We do know that we must do more to reach out to our children and teach them to express their anger and to resolve their conflicts with words, not weapons. And we do know we have to do more to recognize the early warning signs that are sent before children act violently. To the families who have lost their loved ones, to the parents who have lost their beloved children, to the wounded children and their families, to the people of the community of Littleton, I can only say tonight that the prayers of the American people are with you. Thank you very much.
President, you tried to get this message out last fall. Is there anything additional that you can say or that the federal government can do to prevent things like this from happening?
Well, I think on this case, it's very, very important that we have the facts insofar as we can find them out. You know, we had the conference here last fall. The Attorney General and the Secretary of Education prepared the handbook for all the schools that we asked to be widely used. And we do have, from bitter and sad experience, a great cadre of very good, effective grief counselors. My guess is that they will be needed in abundance there for the children. I think after a little time has passed, we need to have a candid assessment about what more we can do to try to prevent these things from happening.
Mr. President, there seems to be an epidemic of these kinds of incidents now. There was Paducah, Kentucky, Jonesboro, Arkansas, Springfield, Oregon, and several others. Would you characterize this as an epidemic affecting the nation's school system?
I wouldn't want to use that word. What I would like to know is whether we can take it, we can learn enough from this, which in its dimensions apparently is much greater than even the others were, and see what else we can do. I had a very interesting conversation this afternoon with Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy, who, as all of you know, lost her own husband, and son sustained a wound as a result of a shooting incident on a commuter train. And that's what we talked about. And I think tonight we owe it to the people of Littleton and to the families involved in this tragedy to let them go through the grieving and deal and try to get the facts. And then the rest of us have a responsibility to do everything we can to make sure this doesn't make 1999 a year like last year, that we don't have another rash of this, that we really can be more effective in preventing it. And I wish I could say more tonight, but I don't think I can.
Mr. President, have you been told, sir, that the death toll is as high as the 25 figure that we've heard? And secondly, sir, every time one of these things happens, we go through this course of hand-wringing and say, we've got to stop it from happening again. Is there anything specific and concrete that you'd like to see happen that hasn't happened yet?
Well, I don't want to make it. There are, but what I would like to do is take a couple of days, because we don't know what the facts are here. And keep in mind, the community is an open wound right now. They have suffered as much as anyone can suffer. This is the largest group of fatalities, whatever the numbers are. And I've heard various numbers, even as much as 5 minutes ago, right before I came out. I'd like to answer that question, but I think anything I say tonight could only add to the pain of the people in Littleton and not serve to solve the problem. So I will answer that question when I have more facts and after we let a little time pass.
Mr. President, you said you pray that people will wake up. Wake up to what, sir?
Well, I think, you know, there are a lot of kids out there who have access to weapons, and apparently more than guns here, and who build up these grievances in their own mind, and who are not being reached. And it's not just Littleton. We know that now. We've had lots and lots and lots of places. So I don't know how many of you have been there, but I've actually been there. I know the community, and it's a wonderful place. And I think I can't do better than what Patricia Holloway said, the commission chair. You know, if it can happen here, then surely people will recognize that they have to be alive to the possibility that it could occur in any community in America, and maybe that will help us to keep it from happening again. But you know what we put out before, you know the efforts we've made, and I just think that tonight we need to focus on the families that lost their kids, on the children that are wounded, on the grieving of the community, and give this thing a day or two for the facts to emerge, and then I'll try to have more to say to you.
On just that point, Mr. President, at the time you had that conference last year, your administration said the students are still safer sitting in a classroom than they are walking down the street. Do you think Americans still think that's true? Do you think that's true?
Well, statistically, for all the whole 53 million kids in our schools, it's true. But, you know, from the facts we're hearing about what happened at this school and the possibility that explosives were out there, that hand grenades were available, that other things were there, that it obviously wasn't true there. And that was obviously the most dangerous place in Colorado today. So I don't want to, but that shouldn't make people believe that every school is in danger. What it should make every community do is to study this handbook we put out and see what lessons can be learned here. But again, you know, tonight I think the American people ought to be thinking about those folks from Littleton. Tomorrow and in the days ahead, we'll have more time to kind of gather ourselves and our determination and go back at this again. Thank you.